Hello and welcome to the darkened room of music conversation.
I'm Darren.
And I'm Chris.
And tonight we're going to introduce you to a brand new series on the channel that we're going to be doing. It's called the Rewind Retro Review. And what we're going to do is we're going to listen to an album, which we've already done that earlier tonight.
Just did, yeah.
All the way through, and we're going to work our way through the entire 80s decade. So tonight, our selected album up first is Pat Benatar's Crimes of Passion, which came out originally on August 5th. Of 1980.
That's right.
So we had a fresh listen to it. I hadn't heard it in years.
Yeah.
And
I tried to approach it as if I'd never heard any of the songs before.
Right. Because, it is her most successful album.
Yeah.
And we thought it would be fun to give it a listen and just kind of see how it hit us all these years later.
Yeah.
Now, me personally, I actually have an experience with the record because my sister, who was a few years older than me, got that tape for Christmas in 1980. And she wore it out. You remember the little cassette decks, the little outboard little cassette decks that you could record the radio and
yes.
More they were made, they sounded terrible, but they were made more for like speech and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. I had one of those as a kid too.
Yeah, they're fun to play with because you could record and all that stuff. So she had one of those and so I heard the album a blue million times. So I had some preconceived notions about how I felt about the songs. But we're talking 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting to listen to it with a fresh set of ears and to review it.
Yeah. So I guess we should start out with some a few facts about the album.
Sure.
So released August 5th, 1980. It spent number 2 for was it 5 weeks behind Lennon and Ono's Double Fantasy.
Right. Nothing was going to beat that at that point.
No, not at all. Yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
The first single from the album was You Better Run, and it was the second video that MTV played when they first came on the air.
I'll tell you something funny. I when I first got my iPod several years ago, I ran across an article, and that was one of the first playlists that I ever created on my iPod was the first hour of MTV
Oh,
music.
wow, yeah.
So, yeah, I knew that. The
Very
first one
cool.
was Video Killed the Radio Star.
That's right.
Yeah.
And everyone remembers that one, but the Pat Benatar fact is a little lesser known.
True.
People have forgotten,
Right.
But yeah, it hit 4 times platinum, so sold 4 million copies. So it was a major success.
Absolutely.
And the guitarist was
Neil Girardo, who is the current Mr. Benatar.
That's right, yeah.
They've been married. They have a daughter who I think's in the music business too. And he's a fabulous guitar player. But, listen to the album all the way through and really hearing his work, it really strikes you just how good of a lead player he was.
Yeah.
And I think he approached the songs very uniquely, very much in the same way Brian May and Queen would. And, he would kind of elevate the song and kind of take it somewhere different during his solo parts. And it's very effective.
I definitely picked up on that as we were listening to it. Yeah.
Great guitarist. I remember meeting Marty Friedman from Megadeth years and years ago on the, I think it was the Countdown to Extinction tour. And he told me that Neil was one of his favorite guitar players.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Ringing endorsement.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so we thought we'd just go track by track and kind of give a little review of each song, and then we're going to comment on the album as a whole.
Sounds good.
We're done. So track 1 was Treat Me Right.
Well, I personally think it was a great way to start the record.
Yeah.
A very dark song on an overall very dark album.
Yeah.
And I think it's very much the same effect, in my opinion, that Call Me gives you by Blondie.
Totally, yeah.
It just gets right to the point.
You can hear Debbie Harry on vocals, if it were a Blondie song. Absolutely.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Very dark song, very engaging. And, Pat Benatar is one of the greatest vocalists of all time. I think in a lot of ways she doesn't get enough respect.
I agree with you.
Because she's a fabulous singer, and it's, very evident from the get-go on this record.
Totally, yeah. And her vocal style, especially on this one, you can really pick up that power behind it. Is like it was almost a little bit of a punk influence.
Yeah.
But of course you had Heart as her predecessors.
Right.
And they kind of did the same thing. But she could bring it, and she could hang with the big dogs.
Right. And you got to understand, at this point in time, there weren't a whole lot of female vocalists out there. You had Blondie, you had Heart, the Wilson sisters, you had Chrissy Hine from the Pretenders, and so Pat was in an exclusive club. Let's just put it that way. And I think the first song sets the mood for the record.
Absolutely does. And that goes into track 2, which is You Better Run.
Yep. And that's a Young Rascals cover.
Yeah.
And overall, it's pretty good. I always like that song. I don't think it's the greatest song lyrically or anything like that, but it totally works. And within the context and the sequencing of this record, it works well as the second track.
I think so too, for the most part. Yeah. We're going to talk about the order of the tracks here in a little bit. So,
yes, we are.
All right. That leads into Never Wanna Leave You, track 3. And this really starts to darken the album even more.
Yeah.
The mood of the album is like, it just, I was surprised. With the biggest hit single that came off of this, I didn't think this album would be this dark.
Right.
I'd never heard the whole thing all the way through,
right,
as opposed to you.
Right.
So that was surprising to me.
Yeah, and I like the song. It's a very moody, atmospheric type song. I like the vocals, the way they kind of cascade over, certain sections. Yeah. And it kind of weird. It ended up being a B-side of one of the tracks. I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
But they felt pretty strongly about it because it was track 3.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. And of course, the big hit was the next one, track 4, Hit Me With Your Best Shot.
Hit Me With Your Best Shot was written by Eddie Schwartz, who is a Canadian songwriter who had a hit called All Our Tomorrows. He was one of those 80s one-hit wonder type guys. Very forgettable song, in all honesty.
Yeah.
I liked it, but it's not very memorable. But anyway, he hit a home run with this one. And you notice there are a lot of songs that were written by outside writers on this album.
I did notice that, yeah.
Yeah, so they were really, really trying to, push Pat into the mainstream.
Yep.
But still make a modern hard rock sounding record.
Exactly right. Yeah.
So Hit Me With Your Best Shot. I love the song. I always have. I've always said it has the ultimate bar band ending to that song. I really like how the song ends.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And as much as it's been overplayed, I don't seek it out to listen to it, but I still like the song in general.
Oh, totally. And it's a very popular song at karaoke bars, for sure.
It sure is. Great guitar solo. That goes without saying on all these tracks. Neil played great.
My wife does this karaoke.
Nice.
She nails it. She's
I could totally.
I got to give her kudos for that.
Nice.
Track 5, ending side 1. You remember back in the day, albums, you'd had to flip them over to hear the rest. So ending side 1 was Hell Is for Children, the epic. It's a great song.
Yeah, it's my favorite Pat Benatar song, pretty much of all time. It'd be in the top 3 anyway. I'd really have to analyze that.
Yeah.
But the song itself is great. Very dark subject matter about abused children.
Yeah.
And they really are hitting on all cylinders with the energy, the production, and that's something else. Keith Olsen produced this, known for working with Fleetwood Mac, Rick Springfield, all kinds of, majorly successful projects.
Yeah.
And I think his production...
You can hear that too in this,
For sure. Very warm sound throughout, even though the album is a pretty raw record. You got, guitar, bass, drums for the most part. Keyboards are there for atmosphere at times, but very far back in the mix in the background.
Yeah.
But Hell Is for Children is a perfect song on this album. I think it's a perfect 10. The playing, her singing, the atmospherics of it, the energy of that track is outstanding.
Yeah. I think I mentioned while we were listening to it, I could hear the lead singer of the Scorpions.
Yes.
I actually could hear the Scorpions themselves doing this song.
It's a heavy metal song. Now, it doesn't, when I say that,
it's structured like a heavy metal song for sure.
And written lyrically, everything about it's heavy metal. It's not produced like a heavy metal song.
Not at all, yeah.
But it's still edgy and heavy and dark.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yes.
All right, so that ends side 1 with quite a bit of darkness.
Yeah.
Side 2, though, picks up the mood a little bit with Little Paradise.
I like this one.
Yeah, I did too.
I like it. And it's a welcome relief after the darkness of Hell Is for Children.
Exactly right, yeah.
And once again, Chris makes a great point that I didn't even think about when we were listening to it. He's like, hey, this is the point where you would get up, turn the album over.
Yeah.
And so you had time to kind of get out of the feel of Hell is for Children.
That deep subject matter, the disturbing, thoughts, that come from that song. Yeah. You kind of you could cleanse your palate by flipping the record over.
And it certainly lightens the mood at that point. Yeah. And Chris made a great reference. You thought that it sounded like.
Oh, yeah. The rhythm part of the guitar sounded like Ted Nugent's Free for All.
And he is dead on. Listen to it and think about Free for All by Ted Nugent, and you hear it.
Yeah, totally.
So that was a good pickup on your part. But
that was surprising, too. It's like Pat Benatar picking up something from Ted Nugent seems out of place.
Well, they were trying to basically get into that arena rock realm at that point. Everybody was.
Totally. Yeah.
That's where the money was.
Yeah.
And she was wanting to be out there with the Journeys and Loverboys of the world.
Yeah.
And so she definitely made that type of record. And that song is a perfect example.
Totally. And that goes into a song called I'm Gonna Follow You. It'll be track 7 on the CD, track 2 on side 2.
Correct. Yeah. It definitely had the most bass response of any of the songs on the album.
Totally, yeah.
Very groove-oriented song, another atmospheric piece.
Yeah, groove was what I was going to bring up.
And back to the darkness that is kind of the theme of the whole record. So.
Yeah.
And I like it.
I really did like that one, yeah.
Yeah, very cool song.
Yeah. So track 8 is a Kate Bush cover. The song Wuthering Heights.
Wuthering Heights. Now, this, full disclosure, I was not a fan of this song.
I wasn't much either.
Yeah, and even as a kid, it was my least favorite song on the record.
Yeah.
And for me, it doesn't age all that well. Now, I know I've read message boards and stuff for years. A lot of Pat fans love her version of this. It was written originally by Kate Bush. I think Kate Bush's version on The Kick Inside is an excellent song.
Totally, yeah.
So you can't help but compare it.
Yeah.
And although Pat's an excellent singer, I mean, one of the best ever, I'm certainly not putting down the vocals. I think on this album and where it's placed and the sequencing behind I'm Gonna Follow You drags the album down mightily, in my opinion.
This is definitely a major valley. It drags at this point.
Right.
I think, side 2 would have been a much easier listen, and the songs you probably could have accepted better if it didn't have this spot where these two are back-to-back.
I totally concur with that.
If what I just said made any sense, but
well, it does. Yeah. It does make sense. Yeah. And once again, it's our opinion. Doesn't have to be yours. I know a lot of people out there watching this love that song, and I would say that I probably appreciate it more than I did when I was a kid, where I would just like skip it or tell my sister to turn it off. I didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But there's parts of it that are kind of cool and vibey.
Yeah.
But overall, I just don't like it on this record.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a grand song. Like, you could hear Meatloaf doing it.
Yeah, it's very dramatic.
Kind of that style. Yeah. Dramatic is a good word for it.
Celine Dion would do a great version of this song.
Totally, yeah. All right. So that leads into the next track, which this is where Darren and I have a slight disagreement on which song that we liked the least on here.
Right.
I liked Wuthering Heights the least, and he disliked Prisoner of Love the least.
Yeah, I think Prisoner of Love is everything that was bad about the AOR arena rock movement.
And I do agree with that.
Yeah, the lyrics are lame. The riff is cheesy. It's got a real familiar sound about it because you've probably heard it a million times on every other record from that era.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't move me at all. Yeah, it just sounds like they're going through the motions on that one. It's played well. That's another thing I wanted to pick up on. Not only was the production nice and clean, the performances are pretty flawless. It goes without saying that Neil and Pat, they're virtuosos in my book, so they're great. But Scott St. Clair Sheets also played rhythm guitar, was in the band at the time. Roger Capps, the bass player, and also Myron Grombacher, I think is how you say his name. If I said that wrong, I apologize. Was the drummer. All the performances are top flight. So this song, there's nothing wrong with the plan. I just think the song itself is pretty lame and cheesy, and it's a good battle between Wuthering Heights and Prisoner of Love of which one that I dislike the most on this record.
And I had to say that I disliked Wuthering Heights more than Prisoner of Love because at least Prisoner of Love is a rock and roll song. Yeah, it's basic, it's standard, but it's still a rock song, and Wuthering Heights feels like it's a musical.
It's out of place on the record.
Totally,
and I concede that point.
Yeah,
definitely. All right, and that brings us to the last track.
Last track is Out of Touch, finishing off the album. Yeah,
and lyrically, this song didn't do a whole lot for me either, but I think it made perfect sense to end the album with this song.
Totally, yeah.
It has a lot of energy, starts off kind of dark. It reminded me a lot of the Knack and
totally,
the production. And you got to understand what a huge song My Sharona was around this time.
Yeah.
It was like the best song ever by industry standards.
Right, yeah.
And so you heard a lot of, I'm sure, caving into to corporate and record company, record label pressure. Do something like that. You know, you can, when you think about it, you can totally hear it in the song. It's not a rip-off, but just the way it's structured and stuff.
And it's quite obvious that, you know, Pat and her team that's not the direction they wanted to push her in. Right. So it's the last track on the album.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I can't really think of any other song on, you know, in this collection of songs that would have made more sense to end the album with. I think it works as an album closer.
I think so. At least it doesn't end with like just total darkness, you know, down mood.
Right.
At least it sends you off in a more upbeat way.
Very energetic.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
All right. So, as overall the whole album, we did touch on some things about the production value and all that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about if we could reorder the tracks.
Yeah, if we had to resequence them, how would we do it?
How would we do it? Yeah.
We do think that there were some problems with how the songs were sequenced on this.
Yeah. First one was when we first noticed that something's out of order, in our minds anyway. Never Want to Leave You into Hit Me With Your Best Shot into Hell Is for Children.
Yes.
The mood of all of those songs, Hit Me With Your Best Shot, just stuck out like a sore thumb.
It really did. It's a real happy, upbeat, you know, energetic type song in the middle of all this darkness.
Yeah.
And it just didn't seem to make a lot of sense where it was sequenced. Now, once again, you got to understand a lot of these songs are written by outside songwriters, so it's quite a chore to try to, you know, arrange these. But we felt like Hit Me With Your Best Shot would have been better, probably track 2.
I think so. Right behind Treat Me Right, which is kind of a darker song.
But it's energetic.
Yeah. If you go back to the movie High Fidelity, when he's talking about making the perfect mixtape, it's like you got to come out of the gate with a strong one and you kick it up a notch.
Yeah.
That's what that would accomplish on this.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. And then you already hit on Wuthering Heights being next to I'm Gonna Follow You on side 2. Just really bogs the album down. The energy is just sucked out of you at that point.
Yeah.
And so where would you place that song?
I would just move it down one, put Prisoner of Love between I'm Gonna Follow You and Wuthering Heights. It just kind of breaks up that lull there where things just get really sleepy.
Yeah. So if you have iTunes or whatever, you can do your own version of this to see if it makes sense. But according to us in our retro remix, we would go with Treat Me Right, Hit Me With Your Best Shot, You Better Run, Never Want to Leave You, Hell Is for Children. That's side 1. Side 2 would be Little Paradise, I'm Gonna Follow You, Prisoner of Love, Wuthering Heights, and Out of Touch.
Yeah, we totally didn't want to move Little Paradise out of side 2, track 1.
That really worked.
It really does. It's a great side 2 opener.
I agree.
Yeah.
So overall, we graded this album on a scale of 0 to 100. I gave it a 75, and that's based on I thoroughly love 7 of the 10 songs. I think they're great songs that hold up well. Not only production, but the plan and the songs themselves.
Sure.
And then, you know, the rest of them I liked okay or to not very much. So I gave it an overall score of 75.
And I'll give it, I'm going to be really close to you. I'm going to give it a 73.
Okay.
I'm thinking go down just a little bit of a notch because of the side 2 where it just drug on a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, I love this style of music anyway, but it's not exactly in my top type of styles of music that I like. You know, I'm more of a the feeling, the Cure and all that kind of stuff. So even though I love these songs, I loved the album. You know, it's not real high up on my list.
It's a very formulated album,
totally
from the era of Formula Rock and Formula Hard Rock. But I think you know, she had to come out with a strong album to kick the decade off. You know, this was her second album actually in the 80s, but this one really catapulted her into superstardom, and she had a lot of good years in a row.
She did indeed.
Yeah. So Pat is a very underrated artist. I've always loved her. And it was really fun to listen back to this. First time in a long time. But we're going to be doing this little thing, this whole Rewind Retro review, and we're going to go entirely through the 80s. So this was our first choice from 1980.
Yeah.
We'll have a record from 1981. before too much longer, and we'll listen it all the way through and do the same thing and share our experiences. So anything that you would like us to review retroactively from the 80s, drop it down in the comment section.
Right, and also, what did you think of this album? What do you think of our new revised track order? Test it out and let us know what you think, if it improves the album overall.
Right.
Let us know, but for now, hey, let's play some trivia.
Let's do it.
All right, for this trivia game, we're going back to the DVD.
Yeah.
And name that group. We're going to watch 3 videos with no sound, name the group. Some of these are very easy. Some have challenged us.
We've been stopped a few times.
Yeah, so let's see where we wind up with this.
Sometimes I know the group, which is all we have to do is identify it, but I don't know the song.
Yeah, that's true. That happens sometimes.
Yeah. All right, so here we go. That's what's up first. So that's
number 1.
David Lee Roth, right? No, is that Poison?
No, that's Poison.
That's Poison, yeah. Boy, they started with a David Lee Roth pose.
They did. He looked, they probably did that on purpose for this game. Because
is this Fallen Angel?
It may be, although there was some live action stuff in it. So I don't think this is it. There's a little more live action stuff going on.
I wasn't a big fan of Poison, so
I wasn't either at the time. Yeah. Some of their stuff in retrospect, I'm like, that one was not bad.
Exactly.
I did like Cry Tough. So.
I did too.
Yeah,
I did too, and I liked Fallen Angel.
Yeah,
I like that song.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah. All right, video number 2.
Number 2.
Is this Owner of a Broken Heart?
That's Richard Page. So
okay, so this would be Broken Wings then.
Yep.
Mr.
Yeah, as if they didn't know that already. So.
Of course not, yeah. But I saw the eagle, you know that shot of the eagle in Owner of a Lonely Heart?
Yeah.
So that's where my mind went first.
Which it had two different videos, Owner of a Lonely Heart.
That's right,
Remember, one was more creepy than the other.
Yeah. All right, video number 3.
It's been a while since we went 3 for 3, I believe.
I know, let's see what happens.
That's Paul Young. All right.
Well, every time you go away.
Great song.
You take a piece of me with you.
Written by Daryl Hall, by the way.
Yes, that's right. And I love his version. I love the extended mix, which we actually mentioned on our 12-inch mix episode.
Yes, and you're going to hear me say this, and probably the only time you'll ever hear me say this. Mm-hmm. I like this version better than the Hall & Oates version.
I have to admit I do too.
I do. And I love the Hall & Oates version, by the way.
Nothing against Hall & Oates at all.
But I love the Paul Young. It just seems to take it to another level. Energetic.
Totally, yeah.
Energetic and just good.
And for me, it's got the feels.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us for this episode, guys. We'll be back with another one very soon. Take care.
See you.